The new law in the state that allows carry on campus set off the leftists in the student body here. Jennifer McKay was a senior last year. She said she was very uncomfortable about the new law. Mabel Robles called it unnerving. Jessica Jin, who's a UT Austin alum, she thought that we should be treating the gun culture with discomfort and weird looks, because after all, she felt uncomfortable around guns. And so that's why she organized the protest that made this university a national laughingstock. Of course, I'm talking about cocks, not blocks. Because you see, people should be just as uncomfortable about seeing guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens as they are about seeing weirdos walking around in public with giant rubber dildos strapped to their back. And, I mean, obviously this makes perfect sense, since guns and dildos are exactly the same. You should only use your dildo in private, and you should only use your gun in private. And if somebody tries to attack a gun-free zone, you can just grab your enormous green fake penis and beat them to death. Or something. I'm still trying to decipher the logic. Leftists are so weird. Here's the thing about the Cocks Not Clocks movement, gang. I can explain to a 7-year-old why people are carrying around weapons to defend themselves. I can't really explain why a sane and rational person would strap a footlong to a backpack and start strutting around until they just cured cancer. You know, I can cite things like, for example, a University of Texas shooting in 1966, who was put down after murdering 16 people by a civilian with a gun. Or Appalachian School of Law, where a former student opened fire on unarmed students and was stopped only by 2 civilians who were strapped. See, gun-free zones don't stop bad people with guns, and neither do dildos. The people who pushed this protest because they were so triggered by the sight of guns didn't actually accomplish anything beneficial. They honestly just sort of made everybody kind of look like dicks. But on campus, it's important to push for the notion that no one can be offended, right? Unless you offend the left, then they can offend you by carrying around sex toys. They can even hurt you, which brings us to microaggressions. So microaggressions, the problem with the term microaggressions is that it in and of itself is a declaration that if I say something to you that offends you, you get to hurt me, right? It's not just something that offends you, it's an aggression. If you aggress against me, then I am allowed to aggress against you. At Cal State LA, when I spoke there, one of the professors actually put this up on his door. He had like a whiteboard, and he put up on the door the phrase, "The best response to microaggression is macroaggression." He then threatened to wrestle the students who had invited me because he's odd. Microaggressions are just an excuse for the fascist boot to come down and squash you. And they don't even mean anything, microaggressions. Most of these microaggressions are things that they're subjectively offensive, but not objectively offensive. So for example, colleges are now saying things like, if you say to somebody, "I'm colorblind," this is a microaggression, because something. And also, if you say to a biological male he, and you say to a biological female she, this is also a microaggression because this may not comport with their own identity as a transgender platypus. If you say things like, "Where are you from?" right, this is a microaggression if you say, "Where are you from?" to somebody, because obviously you're implying you're not from here. All right, I know you're not from here. I assume you weren't born like right on this spot. Like, where are you from? The only commonality among microaggressions is that somebody finds them offensive on a subjective level, and then, unfortunately, this has bled up from the campus level to the broader left. You get to treat people with violence. So my own personal example of this, and this has happened to me, was, I don't know how many folks, quick show of hands, who's ever seen CNN Headline News? Okay, so you are the entire audience for CNN Headline News. Like, it exists in this room. No one watches CNN Headline News. So back about a year and a half ago, this was about the time that Caitlyn Jenner was a big national story. And Caitlyn Jenner, of course, was being given the ESPN Heroism Award. And so they called me up because they looked under conservative and white pages. I'm the only one in a 300-mile radius of the CNN studios in LA. And they found my number, and they called me and they said, "We'd like you to come in and talk about this. What's your perspective on transgenderism?" And they do a pre-interview with the producers. And so my perspective on transgenderism is that transgenderism is a mental illness and that it is cruelty to people who are transgendered to treat people who think that they are women but are in fact biological men as though they are in fact women. It doesn't do anything for them. Transgender surgery does not work. The rates of suicide before and after transgender surgery are precisely the same. You're telling people that it is good and worthwhile to mutilate themselves and for society to engage in the delusion that gender is completely fluid simply in order to create a false civil rights movement that doesn't really exist. And this is coming from somebody who takes mental illness very seriously. My grandfather was a paranoid schizophrenic, manic depressive, and if people had told him that it was true that his radio was actually talking to him, it would have been a lot worse for him and a lot worse for my family than when people said, "You have a problem, and now we're going to try and find a solution for you." So I said this to the producers. So I come in, and one of the producers comes up to me and he says, "You know, we here at CNN Headline News have no ratings." And I said, "Yes, I'm well aware." And he says, "Well, I think tonight's show is going to be, really, really spicy. It should be really interesting. That's why we wanted you to come on and just say what you feel. And by the way, I used to produce for Jerry Springer. At that point, that was probably when I should have had second thoughts about the whole ordeal. But being the intrepid sort, I said, okay. So they bring me out to the stage, and the stage is Dr. Drew, and I think there are 3 other people on the panel up there, and then me, and then 3 people next to me. So it was like in total, it was 6-on-1, 6 leftists and me, which makes it almost fair for them. So this discussion starts, and the only conversation that's happening, because they're all of the left, the only conversation that's happening is Caitlyn Jenner a hero or the greatest hero? Is Caitlyn Jenner a Medal of Honor winner, or is Caitlyn Jenner more heroic than the people who stormed the beaches at Normandy? Should Caitlyn Jenner be given an honorary burial spot at Arlington National Cemetery, or should Caitlyn Jenner be actually created a magic chariot to rise to heaven like what? And so finally they come to me and they say, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I don't see what's heroic about any of this, and I don't understand why as a society we're engaging in humoring mass delusions. It doesn't make sense to me. And I neglected one part of the story. The person sitting next to me is a transgender person. So the person sitting next to me which doesn't change my opinion at all, because my opinion is my opinion, and facts are facts, and that's just the way things are. And the person sitting next to me was a fellow named Zoe Turn. So Zoe was formerly Bob Turn, and had about 100 pounds on me, and a voice not lower than mine. And we start in on the discussion, and as I'm explaining my position on this, Zoe turns to me and says, "You don't know anything about genetics, little boy." And I said, "Well, I know enough about genetics to know that every single cell of Caitlyn Jenner's body has a Y chromosome in it, with the exception, ironically, of some of his sperm cells." And Zoe reiterates, "No, you don't know anything about genetics, little boy." And it goes on like this for a couple of minutes, just kind of jabbing. You don't know anything about genetics, little boy, and I'm kind of ignoring it. And then finally, I turned to him and I said, "Well, what are your genetics, sir?" And it was the sir that set him off. This is on national TV, it's live. And he reaches over and grabs me by the back of the neck, like physically grabs me by the back of the neck, and then he says to me, "If you don't cut that out, I'll send you home in an ambulance." And honestly, God, my first thought was, that doesn't even make any sense. You don't go home in an ambulance. So what I said was, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political conversation. Now, the punchline of the story is not that. The punchline of the story is that all of these people on the panel, universally, all of them, none of them say, "Zoe, you can't do that on national TV. You're not allowed to commit battery on people on national TV because you have a disagreement about the nature of transgenderism and biology." Right? Instead, what was you knew what you were saying was going to offend Zoe. How dare you say something that was so offensive to Zoe? And that's the first time I said, "Facts don't care about your feelings." Right? That's when I said. That's when I dropped sort of my catchphrase. Right? But the fact is that this is how the left responds. If you are offended, then you get to lash out at people and you get to hurt them. And it's the threat of force that is now being leveraged on college campuses. So, here at UT Austin, I don't know if there's a threat of force to back it, but obviously they're trying to police Halloween. Right? Everybody took note nationally of this idiotic 29-point checklist on Halloween costumes, lest someone get offended. All fun, according to the left, all fun, all differences of opinion. They must be taken out to a field and beaten with a shovel and buried in a shallow grave in a cornfield in Iowa like Joe Pesci at the end of Casino. So here you have your wonderful administration offering helpful hints like, why are we considering this theme? Is there something particularly powerful or engaging about this particular theme? The more unique or exotic the theme, the more potential issues for stereotyping. I didn't realize that a Halloween party had to be particularly powerful or engaging. I thought that's what the alcohol was for. I like that their little checklist says you should have a Texas beach theme rather than a jungle theme because you wouldn't want Harambe's ghost getting offended or something. No costumes about a living culture, they say, only dead culture, which seems kind of disrespectful to the Romans, but hey, those jerks aren't around to complain. Screw those guys. You can't over-sexualize women, particularly women who keep wearing attractive costumes to Halloween parties. Just cut it out. It's time to dress like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They say that you're supposed to consult with experts and don't buy store-bought costumes because they're not authentic. Every costume must be authentic. It must be hand-woven in the country from which you are attempting to call this cultural diversity. If you can't dress as Mulan authentically, don't do it at all. They say if you're, and it actually said this on this silly little checklist, they say if we're afraid of someone's reaction, we probably shouldn't do it. Let's just cancel Halloween completely then, and also fun, and also talking. Right? Talking is annoying and offensive, as people in this room are finding out. In fact, let's just cancel classes. Let's just cancel college. I mean, obviously somebody is going to react to it. We wouldn't want that happening. I like that they say here in Texas, no Cowboys and Indians costumes. They do recognize you have a team in Dallas called the Cowboys. Right? There's no south of the border costumes because obviously if you have any costume that celebrates Mexican heritage, or does so in a jolly way, that obviously is insulting the Mexican people. You can't dress in urban attire, they say, but you can dress in preppy attire, which seems kind of racist to me. They say you can't dress in Hawaiian attire, since you never experienced colonialism of the Westerners in Hawaii, and you didn't engage in the original cannibalism of some of the natives. No going as rednecks, but good news, you can go as alphabet letters, which is very exciting. You can all pick the alphabet. Really, this is on their list. No joke. They didn't have numbers on the list because some numbers are higher than others. We don't want anyone to So, I love the fact that you can't go as a redneck. I mean, this is Texas. Okay. You can dress in a what I want to be when I grow up thing. So they say you can have a party for what I want to be when I grow up, and you can dress like that. What if I just want to grow up to be a non-uptight douchebag? Then not so much, apparently. Okay, so once all the microaggressions and trigger warnings have been policed out, and you finally have your magical safe spaces. And again, the implication of safe space is clear. If someone disagrees with you, then you are feeling unsafe. You're feeling assaulted. Okay, look at me, I'm not going to beat you up, right? Okay, the fact is that you are safe in the United States because the United States guarantees your safety based on freedom of speech. But you don't need an independent safe space. But this nonsense has gone so far that you have people at University of Missouri. They literally did this. The black students at University of Missouri, when they were protesting, they said, we do not want any white people in our protests because that violates our safe space. Black students across the country, it's happening at USC, it happened at Cal State LA, they want blacks-only housing because that's their safe space. To which the KKK says, absolutely, let's do that. One safe space that has to be established, obviously, is a safe space here against young conservatives of Texas. So I guess some of your low IQ student government reps want to ban YCT for the grave sin of holding an affirmative action bake sale. To understand what an affirmative action bake sale is, let me explain this to you in small words and simple sentences, periods at the end of them, okay? These events are designed to show racism in admissions is bad. It's called satire. And they penalize certain racial groups on the prices of cookies in the same way that administrators on college campuses penalize certain racial groups on the basis of their race. That is the whole point of the affirmative action bake sale. But these doltish student government leftists want to ban students who commit future incidents of bias. Funny, because I was going to suggest that we ban administrators who engage in bias in admissions. Now, the president of the student government, who I guess is a future gas station employee named Kevin Hellgren, he said YCT's bake sale was hate-filled because he doesn't understand what political satire is. One Priya Suri, who apparently has a futurist diversity office at a community college somewhere, says the resolution was to ban YCT was to help people who are emotionally affected by the bake sale. Oh, you poor babies. Oh, show us on the doll where the First Amendment touched you. Safe spaces are safe in the same way that the Matrix is safe. It's wonderful and happy until you realize that you're actually strapped into a wire and they're sucking all your precious bodily fluids out as well as your IQ, apparently. Okay? All of this is making people insane. Okay? It's making students totally nuts. It's making them crazy. Because the idea of victimology, of being a perennial victim, makes you crazy. Jonathan Haidt, who's a sociologist and psychologist at New York University, he writes, the recent collegiate trend of uncovering allegedly racist, sexist, classist, or otherwise discriminatory microaggressions doesn't incidentally teach students to focus on small or accidental slights. Its purpose is to get students to focus on them and then relabel the people who have made remarks like that aggressors. This is, for those who are psych majors in the audience, Okay, this is the opposite of what is called cognitive behavioral therapy. Well, when you have a stream of thoughts that lead to a bad outcome, to a depressed outcome, then we try to convince you that this stream of thoughts is unnecessary. This vicious cycle where you're looking to be victimized, so you can feel bad, so you can hurt somebody, so you can feel victimized, so you can feel bad. This vicious cycle creates a mentality where you must be protected from everything at all times. You must be protected from, and if you are not protected, then you feel the necessity to lash out, which makes you evil. If you are not struck, you do not get to fight. Okay? If somebody does not hit you, you don't get to punch back. It actually creates worse human beings if you believe that you are a victim in an unjustified fashion. Self-appointed victimhood is really dangerous stuff, and it does lead to ideological fascism. That's why 40% of people who are our age, between 18 and 34, 40%, according to a Pew poll in 2015, November, found that 4 in 10 of us think that the government should have an actual role in preventing people from making statements offensive to minority groups. That is an explicit rejection of the First Amendment. So here's the bottom line to all of this. The nice thing about a free country is that in a free country, decency is rewarded. In a free country, you making good decisions means that you are going to have better outcomes, and you're all capable of this. And first of all, very few of you are going to be poor in the United States. You're already college students. But if you want to avoid permanent poverty in the United States, there's only 3 things you have to do. This is according to the Brookings Institute, which is a left-leaning institute. 1, you have to graduate high school. Congratulations. 2, you have to make sure that you get a job. Eventually, even the poli-sci majors in the audience will get one. It's okay to have a poli-sci major. 3, don't have babies out of wedlock. You do those 3 things, you will not be permanently poor. Why? Because these are responsible decisions. If you make those responsible decisions, then you will not be put in a position where you are permanently poor. And if you don't make those decisions, it's on you. It's on you. And I believe in you. I believe that you can do these things. I believe that you're capable of getting and holding down a job. I believe in you, that you're capable of not putting that there without something on it. I believe in all of you that you're capable of doing these things and making life better for yourselves and making life better for your kids and making life better for the people who live around you. And here's the reality of the situation. Everybody likes to think they're the center of their own movie, they're the hero of their own movie, and the society is stacked against you. Society doesn't even crap about you. Society doesn't know who you are. Most people don't know or care about you. All they want is to be left alone, just like you want to be left alone. So, why don't you go out and make something of yourselves? And I think that you will. I believe that Americans can do that. I don't think that there's a big boot coming down to quash you and ruin your lives. And if there is somebody who's trying to do that, then let's talk about that, because that's actual oppression. If somebody is actually stopping you from making good decisions, then we can talk about why that's happening and how we fix that. But to just blame it on America as a whole is a violation of the idea of what America is. Because America is the only country founded on the notion that you would be free to make decisions and bear the consequences of them. Responsible, good people celebrate that, they don't fight it. And it's time for all of us to celebrate that and not fight that, because the more decent we are, the more free we are. Thanks so much. Happy to take your questions.
Q&A is going to go up to 7:30, so this is like we have to be very efficient here. One thing that this room does not have is like secondary microphones. So what we're going to do is, if I can have 2 people line up on each row, and then we're just going to alternate back and forth. After one person asks a question, you can sit, and then someone else in like this half, for example, can get behind. Don't fight. Like, we're going to get to everyone, hopefully.
And if you can't hear the questions, I'll repeat them on the mic so people can hear.
Exactly. So, if you all can follow the line, we'll start on this half.
Okay, you were quick. Go for it.
Hi, I'm a member of YCT. Thank you for coming to our campus, first of all. I've been thinking about the question I was going to ask you for a couple of days now, and I figured I'd ask something that you may not have been asked before. I like to pride myself on being probably the most right person in this room. And so, when it comes to
second most right today, but go ahead.
When it comes to the issue of Black Lives Matter, I've looked at the statistics and I, by and large, understand the arguments against most of the things they say. But when it comes to the issue of a government's responsibility to interface with their citizens in a way that they feel protected by it, Do you think that the group has an argument there?
Well, I mean, I think that the idea that the government does not do that, that's what a democracy is. I mean, the idea that the police aren't talking to citizens is a misread of what the police actually do. It's not like the police pull up in PD headquarters and then they just run out and just attack people. That's not how the police work. So there is a feedback mechanism, and in a republic, there is a feedback mechanism that does exist. If people aren't listening properly, then that's something that we can work on. But the problem I have with Black Lives Matter is they base their false assumptions about what the police are on not listening to the police or recognizing what the police are. They say that the police, they're not worried about the police listening, they're worried about the police actually policing. They think that the police in arresting people who commit crimes are doing something deeply wrong if they're not arresting people by race. If there are too many black people being arrested, then the police are racist and doing something that's deeply evil and wrong. That's the problem I have with Black Lives Matter. I don't have any problem with people who want to talk to the cops. I don't think the cops have any problem with people who want to talk to them. I think they have more problems with the people who are pushing the notion that cops are racist and blowing away people for no good reason. And they have a real problem with people who are rioting in cities based on that false logic.
Okay, so my question is a little bit different from the main topic that we're talking about.
Yeah,
so I'm sure you've heard about what happened to Brock Turner this summer. And
yeah, it's Stanford.
Yeah.
I'll admit I didn't follow it super closely, but probably.
But after this happened and like all the backlash against it, Stanford passed a rule that like they can't have any hard alcohol on campus, like in the parties anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you think of that? Like their ruling and like.
I mean, I think it's a stupid prophylactic measure. I mean, I think that you know the idea that anybody who has hard alcohol is then going to become a rapist is bizarre to me. You know, we already have laws against rape, it turns out. We already have laws against sexual assault. And if people want to get drunk, it's not something that I'm very much for, but it's also not something that I think the government has a role in, or the university really has a strong role in, unless it's actually endangering people. Like if there's a bout of alcohol poisoning, and you personally are one of the people who poisoned yourself, and now they want to suspend you, then that's the university is a private university, can set its own rules. But I think that these sort of we're going to stop rape by stopping people from drinking. You're big boys and big girls. You know, I think that you're capable of making decisions for yourself, and I think that we're all capable of saying people who rape are bad, regardless of how much alcohol they have in their system.
So you don't think that like it's actually going to have an effect on like rape and?
No, I don't think that rapists rape people because they're drunk. I think rapists rape people because they're rapists.
Hi, huge fan. You said in one of your talks, I think the fundamental problem is we, as Americans, we need a moral freeway.
Yes.
And I absolutely agree with that. And I think kind of that was what the core of your talk and your arguments really are is, hey, this is what is morally right, obviously. And this is what is morally wrong, obviously. And I agree with that. But what I've come to experience, and I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on, is those arguments, this is what is obviously moral, against this is what is obviously immoral. When we're talking to these people of the left, they will simply disagree. They will simply just disagree. And what I kind of want to bring it back to is it's really, in my opinion, more of a philosophical issue.
No, it's definitely a philosophical difference. Yeah.
It's really the idea or the concept of
the
objectivity of morality.
Yeah, and I agree. I think there's a serious values difference that has broken out in this country since the 1960s. And that can't be obscured and it can't be glossed over with friendly words about how we all want the same thing. We don't all want the same thing. This is why I'm very harsh on I say it's a nasty, evil concept, this idea of the government imposing fairness of outcome on people, or that it's the job of the collective to do that in violation of individual rights. The thing is, I think most people down deep, and if I didn't believe this, then I wouldn't think there was a future to politics. I do think that down deep, most people understand that individual rights need to trump the collective desire to harm your individual rights for the gain of the collective. If people didn't believe that, then there really wouldn't be hope for the country. But people don't even have it presented in those ways. One of the things that bothers me about